is talking about weapon retention and disarm. The idea with this stage and the idea with weapon retention is a lot of self-defense shootings happen at close range, and you always run the risk of something going wrong, especially if you essentially give your attacker your firearm. So at this kind of range, if I point out at Tony, it's pretty easy for him. All he has to do is knock the gun away just a few inches, and all of a sudden it isn't trouble for him anymore. Even worse, if I'm using a semi-auto and he grabs onto the slide and I fire that first shot, well, then I've got to rack the slide even to get it to fire again. So shooting from retention solves some of those issues. From a perspective of holster and gear and stuff like that, it's going to change a little bit. But for most chest rigs, for most vests and stuff you're wearing, if you simply hold your thumb up to clear the slide and then hold it as high as possible. Most of us don't have too many mag pouches or anything right up here. Okay? So as you come out, if you pull up higher as opposed to staying down here, you don't run the risk of your slide running into your gear. Obviously, if you're not wearing all kinds of gear, you've got a little bit more leeway with it, but it's still best to hold the firearm up high. So from a demonstration purpose, if I'm engaged with Tony here and he comes at me and attacks me, obviously if I stick my gun out, I run into a lot of issues. So the easiest thing is, as I draw, I'm going to switch around here so you can see. Going to attack me this way. As I draw, I'm just going to pull the gun back. All right. This does a few things. Even if his offhand comes in, okay, I grab the gun, I can at least shoot through it one time. All right. Hopefully that will be enough to break his grip. He's a pretty tough guy, but I don't know. I think a bullet through the hand will do it. And the idea of a firearm, the benefit that you have with is it projects power over distance, right? So this is a lot more effective if I'm back here because he can't do anything to stop me from hitting him, right? Up here, obviously, I have that problem. So the retention shooting, it's not that you're going to... have you all seen the movie Collateral with Tom Cruise? Anybody? Okay. One of the things in that movie, you'll see, and a lot of people get this from Hollywood, that I'm going to stand here and hip shoot until he goes away, right? That's not the idea. The idea is to make a couple shots so I can break contact and gain some distance. So as Tony comes in to attack me, I'm just going to give him an elbow, fire a couple rounds, and make space, okay? That's the idea with retention shooting. The other thing to think about is if you're having to move through your home or some type of structure, one of the problems that people always run into is, well, where am I pointing my firearm, and is it a safe direction, right? Where's my kids' room? Where are other members of my house? I don't know if you have kids, but my kids leave toys and crap on the stairs. So as I'm going down the stairs, obviously I don't want to trip over it and crank around off into the couch. Just because... Exactly. There's two different types of retention shooting that we teach. The first one is a close retention position. We teach it as the number 3 position. Some trainers teach it as the number 2. It's the same position. Essentially what it is as you draw out of the holster and come up, you're just going to position your firearm up and towards your attacker, okay? So that's what we'll call the number 3 position. The number 4 position is if I've got a little bit more space, say I'm this far away, and I'm not really all that comfortable hitting targets at this distance this close, I can just bring my hands together, okay, in a compressed position. So if I was drawing, it would come up. So it's 1, I grab my pistol. 2, I pull it up. 3, I rotate on target. Anywhere from here on, I can fire. So I go from 3 to 4. Position 4, I can fire as well. This is a better position if I'm not in arm's reach. If I am within arm's reach, I want to be in 3. As soon as I'm out of that, 4 is a better position. Whether you shoot Weaver, isosceles, it doesn't really matter. The key factor here is that your upper body is indexed towards your attacker. Okay? So even though you can't see your sights, if I had a laser on this, you'd see the laser on Tony as long as I'm holding in this position. If Tony starts to move to the left, move to the left, your left, my left, you're right. All I have to do is move my upper body. Okay? I don't need to worry about where my legs are. Because realistically, in a self-defense type shooting position, the worst thing you can do is have a good stance. Because what does it mean if you've got a good stance? You're stationary. You're standing still, right? So I need to be moving as much as possible. A few things to think about with this. As you're moving around a structure, and we're talking about position 4, obviously you don't want to walk around a structure like this, because again, anything I'm pointing at, I'm flagging. Typically, down is going to be a safer direction in a house, okay? Because at a minimum, you've got floorboards to stop the bullets. So as you're walking around, a lot of people have heard about Sewell. It essentially is just a way of holding your pistol so that you're not pointing it at yourself and you're not pointing it at anybody else. So if I'm having to move through a crowd of people, obviously if my firearm's up, I'm flagging everybody that I see, right? If I hold it like this, I can walk around, and I have to get pretty darn close before I flag him with a firearm. But by the same token, if you're moving through your house and you, I'm not saying that you need to go clear your house every time you hear thumping at night, but if you feel the need to go through your house to make sure that it's safe and you've got your firearm with you, carrying it around in your holster might be a decent way if you've got a firearm. But if not, you can walk around with it like this. And if you're presented with an attacker, you don't have to do anything as he attacks except start moving up, okay? And you're immediately in a firing position. If Tony closes the distance too fast on me and I'm in this position, I can just pull back into 3 again, okay? A few of the things you want to think about. As soon as you start shooting from position number 3, you need to get this hand out of the way. Okay. As you've seen when we're doing it here, we talk about putting your hand up against your ear. That's not just to keep your hand out of the way for this. As if Tony comes in to attack me, if I'm trying to draw, this elbow comes in and hits him in the face. So it's a strike as well as keeping my hand out of the way. Does that make sense? Okay. So for the live fire portion, I'm going to kind of move everybody up here. If you can kind of form a relative half circle in this area so that you're not downrange. Anytime you're indexing off of your target, again, remember that you need to keep your body fairly square to it, but also remember from position 3, my pistol is on the right side of my body. So if this is my attacker and I stand totally square and come up, what am I shooting at? Right? Nothing. So you've got to be aware of that and position your shoulder towards the center line of your attacker. You're not always going to be able to do it perfect, but in a position where you're this close, getting a few shots on this side of his body and making space is a lot better than just shooting whatever's over there, right? Does everybody have ears on? Okay. So we'll talk about the positions 3 and then 4. So as I was talking about with the draw, the way we teach a 5-count draw is count number 1 is maintaining a firm grip on your pistol, okay? Count number 2 is pulling it up out of your holster. At this point, if you've got a manual safety, you'll disengage it if it's a 1911 style safety. If you're shooting like an M9 and it's a European style safety, disengage it as you grab the pistol. Otherwise, you're getting up here and you're trying to fumble with it, getting it off. So you've got 1, 2, and then you're in position 3. From position 3, you can focus and make solid hits on the target, right? And with that said, we're obviously in a static situation here. Those shots are immediately followed or at the same time as me making space from the target. For safety reasons, obviously, I'm not going to back up at you as I shoot. Okay, so you've got 1, you grip, 2, you pull out, 3, you get on target. Okay, if I step back just a little bit further, I've got a little bit of space, but if I stick my handgun out, right, my attacker can still grab it. So from this position, I'm just going to pull back to 4. Within your natural draw stroke, if you grab, pull up, you're at position 3. 4 is just where your hands come together, right? Your elbows are compressed at your sides, your pistol's in front of you, and from there you're going to punch up and get a sight picture. Well, you don't need to get a sight picture if you're in a compressed position and your body's relatively aligned with your target, all right? This is one of the easier ways to learn how to shoot. It doesn't take a ton of practice to get good at it. If you want to get good at retention shooting from way back there, obviously that takes a lot of practice. But the idea to think about is that if I can touch my attacker, I need to be in position 3, right? If I can't touch my attacker, but we can touch hands, I need to be in position 4. Going back to the demo gun here, I'm going to have Tony be my attacker and point this at my head. So in this position, if I can touch his firearm, okay, an unskilled person can do this, right? Okay, an unskilled person can do this. You all realize that if you grab the slide of a gun and pull the trigger, your hand doesn't explode or nothing happens, right? The slide just doesn't move, and then you're done. You have to rack the slide to get another round in. So from that perspective, if Tony's pointing a firearm at me here, I can come up and disarm him, and there's not really too much you can do. Now in that same position, if he pulls back, and we're at this range, if he's using proper weapon retention, by the time I get into him, he's already fired 2 or 3 rounds in me. And as he pulls back, the gun's getting further and further away from my grasp as I'm taking rounds and trying to have to track that gun to where it's going. Does that make sense? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this? Obviously, it's a pretty quick demo, just to kind of give you an idea of how it all works. Hopefully everybody got to shoot here today. If you haven't, come back through. If you have, you can certainly come back through again. As the day wears on here, if there's not a long line, and you want to try shooting from 4 and you want to try shooting from 3, you're more than welcome to come up and try it. All right? Any questions? Good to go. Thanks for coming, guys.
And if anybody needs signatures on their demos too, we'll get